Amid shattered ruins and silenced voices, Israel's push for full control of Gaza unfolds under the guise of security, yet risks cementing a new era of occupation, starvation, and orchestrated suffering. Netanyahu's declared intent to seize Gaza City has sparked global alarm as humanitarian corridors become killing zones and aid trucks roll through a landscape of mass graves. With dozens living detainees still captive, families warn the plan is a death sentence. The EU's fragile aid deal lies in tatters, while UN experts condemn Israel's campaign as an endless war on humanity. As the US remains silent and European resolve wavers, Doctors Without Borders reveals medical horrors. Children executed with surgical precision. This is not merely war, it is the weaponization of survival itself. Welcome to our special coverage of the suffering of Gaza. Welcome to this special coverage. The Washington Post has reported that for nearly 2 years, Israeli media averted its gaze from Gaza's agony until images of starvation pierced the silence. Brief, haunting glimpses of emaciated children and desperate crowds at aid sites challenged the narrative, forcing a moral reckoning. Yet, with hostages still captive and public trauma raw, empathy remains shackled by fear and propaganda. Despite Palestinian journalists risking everything to document the carnage, Israeli outlets, constrained by state restrictions and algorithmic bubbles, largely ignored the scale of civilian suffering. The absence of on-the-ground reporting erased human faces, reducing 2 million souls to strategic abstractions. Now, as Netanyahu pushes for reoccupation, the press stands at a crossroads: uphold journalistic duty or perpetuate complicity. The world sees genocide, Israelis see survival. But as one anchor dared ask, was this merely a PR failure or a moral collapse? And according to Le Monde, a unified international front is emerging against Israel's planned offensive on Gaza City. Governments across Europe, Asia, and the Middle East are vehemently condemning the action, warning that it will only escalate the conflict and lead to more bloodshed. This pressure has prompted a significant shift, with Germany, a historically staunch ally of Israel, announcing the suspension of arms exports that could be used in the Gaza Strip. This decision highlights the growing international difficulty in justifying the military operations objectives. The global community, including the UN, is now urgently calling for an immediate halt to the offensive. Leaders are emphasizing that a permanent ceasefire, the massive entry of humanitarian aid, and the release of all detainees are the only viable path to de-escalation. Now, to talk this through with us, we are joined from Ramallah by Dr. Morad Harfoush, who's a political analyst. Thank you very much for joining us here on Q News, Dr. Harfoush. So Netanyahu is talking about security control, not governance of Gaza City. Yet, of course, he plans for a total military takeover. Is this reoccupation?
My greetings to you and thank you for hosting me. Of course, the occupation army took the decision to reoccupy Gaza Strip, and while it occupies more than 80% of the Gaza, 75% of the landscape. Now the decision was issued by the Israeli cabinet to take over the remainers of the landscape and the security. Under this security control, there is less than a million Palestinian in Gaza Strip, and with the beginning of the offensive with the occupation of Gaza, there will be more 2.5 million Palestinians are exposed to martyring as a result of this operation to reoccupy Gaza. Yesterday, the Israeli media and as well as the far extreme media said that the Israeli Knesset discussed two plans. The plans declared by the Israeli army chief, which is besieging Gaza and reoccupying it gradually, but Netanyahu implemented the plan he suggested, approved by the Knesset, is to fully reoccupy Gaza. Therefore, the occupation reoccupied the Gaza Strip and controlled more than 2.5 million Palestinians inside the Gaza, experiencing martyring or displacement. And in regards to Netanyahu's plan is to ethnically cleanse Gaza and pushing them to the south. This is the plan he intends to implement in the next phase.
Now, of course, 75% at least of Gaza is already in rule. Gaza City is a place where many people have sought a place to stay. It's a bomb site. What remains to occupy?
أعتبره قابل للتصفية. The beginning of October 7th, 23 till now, he destroyed and all institutions and facilities inside Gaza, including hospitals, killing more than 1.05 million Palestinians, and we saw through satellite images the rubble, a place where more than 50 million tons of rubble inside Gaza, but due to the military occupation, killing, conducting daily carnages and destroying all facilities inside Gaza. Therefore, Gaza Strip has turned to uninhabited area, out of service area due to the ongoing hostilities, because they want to eliminate Hamas and regaining or having the detainees, although there is a lot of proposals made by their side, by Hamas' side, to ceasefire, but the Israeli side always putting hindrings to stop the ceasefire. The last one with them was in Doha, the 18-day negotiations in Doha to force U.S. and Israel to accept the plan, but it ended with withdrawing the envoys and leading to the yesterday decision of reoccupying Gaza, because the offensives started again, and they will perpetuate more crimes against Gaza. And we see every day these horrific scenes, whether from mass injured or martyrs or full destruction of Gaza, and as well as weaponizing hunger. We see children scenes killed as a result of hunger and there is about 169 Palestinians were martyred and due to malnutrition and basic needs, among with is 96 children. There is about 400,000 children are subtle to murder due to malnutrition, and closing all the humanitarian aid corridors inside Gaza, and Israeli blockade to the strip. Whether, despite the willingness of the whole countries around the world to provide services and the tons of trucks outside the strip, but Israel blocks the corridors and insists on their plan by which is reoccupying the Gaza Strip. That now has become has went out of service, and they are trying to push them to displacement as a result of ongoing hostilities and the lack of food, basic needs. There is 2.5 million Palestinians live roughly because all homes were destroyed, infrastructure was destroyed, and Israeli occupation eliminated any live factors inside Gaza under the watch of the world.
Indeed, under the watch of the world, Dr. Harfouch. I mean, the humanitarian corridors, according to MSF or Doctors Without Borders, are now killing zones. How can it be that the world watches on while the Israeli occupation forces use starving Gazans as target practice?
Since March 3rd, 2025, Israel blocked all corridors, blocking humanitarian aid access, and as well as establishing what is the so-called Gaza Humanitarian Fund, which is very unlikely unhumanitarian foundation that resulted of the murdering of more than 300% of Eid seekers. The so-called humanitarian access where aid seekers go to, they get killed as due to being targeted in those sites. So those in need are being targeted. As you also said, there is a large number of murders by from the aid seekers in these sites in the south. The Israeli occupation using these sites as a death trap. There is hundreds and thousands of injuries, Palestinian injuries, that were targeted directly in their way to get aid. Israel is weaponizing hunger among the targets of this war to starve the Palestinians and push them to displacement. And this is Netanyahu's administration plan, with a blatant support by the U.S. Supporting limitlessly the U.S. Despite the call of humanitarian, of international institutions, of not weaponizing hunger in this war. However, the Israel is disregarding all of this. There is a governmental institution considered the DHF is unqualified to provide aid and wasn't able to replace international institutions working inside Gaza that were providing aid to Palestinians, and this
Okay, I'm going to have to stop you there because we're just out of time. But we have been seeing pictures of the results of that weaponized starvation on our screens, which are very hard to look at. But thank you very much, Dr. Morad Hafoush, political analyst. Thank you very much for being here with us. Now, The Guardian has highlighted that Israel's plan to seize Gaza City has ignited global outrage, heralding a perilous escalation amid ruins already drenched in suffering. Framed as a bid for security, it risks entrenching military control under the guise of humanitarian oversight, drawing condemnation from the UN, the EU, and nations like Germany and Australia, who warn of catastrophic displacement and violations of international law. Detainees' families and Israeli dissenters decry the move as a death sentence, sacrificing lives for political ambition. Satellite imagery reveals troop buildups, while aid access remains strangled despite a fragile EU-brokered deal now on the brink. From Jakarta to London, voices cry genocide. The world watches as Gaza, stripped of shelter, food, and hope, faces yet another descent into darkness, orchestrated, some say, with American silence. Now, joining us from Cairo is Ambassador Hisham Youssef, Senior Advisor to the European Institute of Peace. Welcome, Mr. Ambassador. Thank you very much for being here with us. Germany has now halted arms exports. Quite a development, I think you'll agree. What do you make of the world's reaction to Netanyahu's plan for a full takeover of Gaza City?
Thank you for having me. Well, it is an important step that was taken by Germany, but it is a small step, and we have to take it into context because they said only the weapons that may be used in Gaza. And we have been pleading with Germany for many months to take any step. So taking a step now is better than nothing, and I hope this would be the beginning of additional steps. As for the reaction of the world, as you mentioned a minute ago, is global outrage. And I hope that this continues, not only because of the plans for Gaza City, but also because of the policy of starvation and what is happening on the humanitarian front, while the effort by the international community has fell short in pressuring Israel to change its policies.
Now, the EU had an aid deal, and that lies in ruins now as trucks just sit at checkpoints. Why can't they do more to pressure Israel to give humanitarian relief aid, anything, to the people of Gaza?
Well, this should be asked to the Europeans, but when I asked them, they were very happy with the agreement that they reached. And I told them what will happen when Israel does not honor this agreement. They said, no, they will honor this agreement. And the reason why they thought that Israel would honor this agreement, because there was pressure on Israel, because the European Union was reviewing the partnership agreement with Israel. So Israel reached this agreement with the EU in order to avoid pressure on a number of European countries, and it worked. As a result of this agreement, no steps were taken by the European Union as a group in relation to this issue. And the European Union has indicated that only 25% of what was agreed and in relation to the number of trucks has been honored by Israel. It's not only that. I think the European Union and the whole world has also witnessed Israel destroy the content of 1,000 trucks of humanitarian assistance because they were spoiled by the sun as a result of the fact that they stood lying there for months and months without being allowed to enter. So they had to destroy them. So now I think the world, especially after the decision that was taken by Israel, has to take much more significant steps in order to put pressure to bear on Israel to change its policy.
And the UN is calling the situation in Gaza as an endless war on humanity. I mean, they're very strong words from the UN. EU officials are saying it's genocide, but there's no, as you mentioned there's no collective EU decision on that or condemnation as a whole, as a bloc. Why is it, and you hear it everywhere, that Israel can basically do whatever it likes? And it seems now, with this new idea from Netanyahu to take over Gaza City as well, that they can do whatever they like. Is there ever going to be any kind of accountability?
Well, we have seen a decision by the ICC, the International Criminal. We have seen an advisory opinion by the International Court of Justice talking about plausible genocide, and also working on this issue to see what will be done in relation to the case of South Africa. So there are developments, and these developments will hopefully have repercussions on the situation in relation to countries that are reluctant. And they are reluctant because Israel has strong lobbies in many of these countries, and they have been using their leverage and American leverage as well in order to ensure that no steps are being taken by, to put pressure to bear on Israel.
And of course, over the past 22 months, we've seen some horrific events on Gaza perpetrated by Israel. But now the weaponization of starvation and the pictures that we see on our screens of emaciated children is very hard to watch. Now that we have images of what is going on, do you think this is finally going to get through to the international community? Is something finally going to be done?
I hope so. I think as a result of these pictures, the situation has changed and pressure has increased. Not enough, yes, but they have increased, including countries like the United States, President Trump saying that he saw starvation. And when Netanyahu told him, no, there is no starvation, he said, no, you're wrong. There is starvation. And also there is huge pressure by the whole world in relation to the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, that they keep claiming that it is providing humanitarian assistance, while more than 1,000 people have been killed trying to get humanitarian assistance. And they are still insisting that this will work. So the United States is the only country in the world that is supporting the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. We hope that this changes as well. And we hope that the US position would start to change in a more constructive and positive direction. But what we have seen so far is that it hasn't. When Canada announced that it may recognize the state of Palestine in September, the US administration indicated that if this is the case, then it would be difficult for the United States to reach a trade agreement. That has nothing to do with the issue. With a country like Canada, a member of NATO and a strong ally of the US, hundreds of years. So we will see. But I think Israel has been taking it too far, and the international community has been very reluctant in steps. But I think that hopefully, as a result of the pressure coming from people on the ground, because they don't accept what they see, and they don't accept the Israeli arguments about everything, that everything is fine, that there is no starvation, that the problem is Hamas and so on. So everybody is recognizing that, no, this is not the problem. The problem is that Israel does not want to end this war. And I hope that as a result of this recognition, that the pressure would mount, and that Israel will be forced at the end of the day to modify and change its position.
These past weeks, I can't help but keep thinking about those images that we saw in 1945 when Western forces went into, the Allied forces went into Germany and Poland and saw the concentration camps and saw what the Nazis had been doing during World War II. And the images, horrific images of the suffering of those people in those camps. And you can't help but see the parallels when you look at the people today in Gaza, the brief glimpses that we have of Gaza without the media being allowed in. Do you fear that when we do go into Gaza, it's going to be much worse than we see now?
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, this is one of the things that also the international community needs to pressure Israel in order for this to change, because there are many news outlets that have indicated that they are willing to send people at their own risk in order to cover what is happening in Gaza. And also, more recently, when Israel allowed a number of countries to provide humanitarian assistance through airdrops, they warned them if they take any videos in relation to the level of destruction in Gaza, that they will not allow them to provide humanitarian assistance in that manner again. So, yes, there is an objective of Israel throughout this war to try to hide all what is happening in Gaza. And of course, there are still some images that come, and of course, people have reacted to that. But, you know, this is one of the things that I think will become clearer when foreign correspondents start going to Gaza and seeing the level of devastation. And mind you, what the Israeli government agreed to is, as they indicated, is only a first stage. So they said the first stage is to deal with the Gaza city, surround it and completely control it. Of course, avoiding the word occupation, although Gaza is occupied in any way, in any case. But this is exactly what they are trying to do. They are saying to the world that, no, we are not done yet. This is the first stage. And based on what happens in this first stage, we will decide on further steps to be taken. So, you know, at the end of the day, if there is no pressure, particularly on the Prime Minister of Israel, this war will not stop. And this is what many Israelis have been saying. It's not only the families of the hostages. No, it is many. There are many Israelis who have been arguing for months and months and saying that it is the personal interest and political interest of the Prime Minister that is keeping this war ongoing.
Yes, I've seen many Israelis saying much the same thing too. It's America, though, isn't it? America's paying for most of this. We only have about a minute left, but do you see any signs that American public opinion perhaps might start to change the American government's policies?
Well, American public opinion have shifted, and this is clear. What we saw in universities, what we saw in different places, but also there is a counter pressure on universities, on people not to be very vocal. And we've seen efforts to deport some people who have been supporting the Palestinian cause and so on. So there is pressure, and there is a counter reaction from the administration not to accept this pressure. So we will see how this develops, but I think the direction is going in a manner that would continue to advance pressure as a result of what has been developing in the last few months.
Well, thank you very much indeed for joining us here on Q News. Hisham Yousef, Ambassador Hisham Yousef, Senior Advisor to the European Institute of Peace. Thank you very much for being here with us. A world watches in horror as siege, silence and suffering rewrite Gaza's fate. Where is the line between war and annihilation? That brings us to the end of this special coverage on the suffering of Gaza. Thanks for watching and stay tuned for more updates here on Q News.